With just about 3 weeks left until the big New York primary, I am very excited to welcome back to the show and the network once again, Sean Chowdhury. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Thank you for having me back on, John. Appreciate this.
Glad to have you here. So, a candidate for New York's 5th District, that has been one of the parts of the country and the world that have been, rocked by a number of different big developments over the past few months. So, talk to me about the last couple of weeks and months of campaigning in that area.
Yeah, I just feel like nothing has been the same since Kobe Bryant passed away. 2020 has just
Huh.
been a whirlwind. With the whole coronavirus pandemic, we as a campaign, we realized how severe the situation was going to be. So we were in the middle of the petitioning period, trying to collect signatures just to get on the ballot. Unfortunately, New York State really allowed us to cut those numbers to get on the ballot, but we suspended our petitioning right away because we wanted to keep our petitioners and people safe from what was going on. And because we were organizers first, we quickly switched our campaign to digital organizing. So first thing we did was do wellness checks on voters. Instead of asking for votes, we're just making sure that they had, a roof over their head, making sure they had food, essential items like medication. And once we got a list of the needs of what people needed, we decided, you know what, we can definitely do more because we want to be a real reflection of what we're trying to aspire of our campaign, which is to be on the front lines with our community on a daily basis. So we turned our campaign into a mutual aid effort. So we delivered groceries to about almost 1,000 families in the district.
Wow.
And at no cost. We pretty much took all of our donations from the months of March and April and used it to just purchasing groceries for families during this difficult time. So that's been, it's been really great that we did that, and just that experience alone just really tells you, the hardship of what everyday people are going through. It's not like we didn't know it already, but just to hear the same stories over and over again, we're seeing how vulnerable this economy is. And that it continuously bails out the rich and powerful, and the working families continuously are being left behind.
Yeah.
And now that we're transitioning what's going on with the unjust system in this country, I think that the conversations of defunding the police, of trying to really address systemic racism head on, I think that these conversations are starting to really be at a tipping point. I think that Black Americans have constantly been left behind. That trying to reform what's wrong with the system right now, it's not going to work. We need to do something about it with it radically. And I think that reforming a system that was built on slavery patrol, I think we need to completely dismantle it.
Yeah.
Especially here in New York 5. It is a minority majority district. 50% Black, 50% of people of color, Latinos, South Asians. And I see it every day as someone who lives in public housing. I hear the police sirens. As soon as I step out, I see brothers and sisters being harassed by the police for unjust reasons. And, I just can't imagine, even though I've been stopped and frisked, I've never had the severe extent as my Black comrades of, what they've experienced.
Yeah.
And I'm just here standing in solidarity. I've done everything I can and continue going to do to stand in solidarity. These peaceful protests, I don't think that we need to continue to be peaceful. We need to make sure that our demands are being met. And that's what I want to do heading into DC.
Mm.
So, we'll see what happens going forward. I think that, even though the cops are being charged, obviously that is just not that's not true justice. So we need to dismantle this whole system right now.
Yeah, and while the four cops involved in the murder of George Floyd are now being charged, every day we're seeing incidents of police brutality that are raising justifiable cries for them to be charged as well. And so what I'm interested in is we have Trump is demagoguing against the protesters, certainly nationally, but you also have a lot of criticism of Cuomo and of de Blasio and how they've managed this, their unwillingness to acknowledge the brutality that's already happened in New York. Let's say that hypothetically right now you were holding Meeks's seat, that you were already in office. What would you be doing to raise awareness, to push for change, whether nationally or in New York specifically?
Yeah, one, I would call for de Blasio to resign. I am really interested with what's going to happen locally next year with the mayoral elections coming up. If I look to be the next congressman, I will look to support the most progressive candidate that will challenge the police unions, that will hold the police chiefs and DAs accountable what's going on in the streets. I would call on the governor to really demilitarize the police. There is no reason why we need 4,000 more cops on the streets. There's no reason why we need the military out on the streets. I just think that, everything that we preach about fighting for liberty and justice, it should not come in a fascist, authoritative situation right now. And that's what we're seeing. So there's not much, we cannot talk about Trump and then not talk about what's going on in our own state when we're essentially doing the same thing to our people. We've seen, especially in the Bronx right now with what's going on, even after the curfew that's been placed, the police, we know we're not the people. People are not stupid. We know people are being abused. We know people are being riled up by the police, and that is just wrong. So I really hope to call on the governor to really demilitarize the police and call to really address the systemic racism head on. And we need to do something about it now on both the state and federal level.
And while, rightfully you're pointing out the issues with de Blasio, we should note that Meeks, the candidate you're running against right now, the current incumbent, endorsed Mike Bloomberg during the recent primary, back when Bloomberg was receiving a ton of criticism for his obvious position in pushing for stop and frisk, which arguably led to quite a bit of the culture that we're now seeing playing out on the streets of New York. So it seems like a pretty big difference between you and Meeks. We've got just 3 weeks until the primary. What are your plans? I know that a lot of the normal ways that you'd be campaigning, as you said, you've had to really shift gears. What do you see these last 3 weeks being like?
Digital campaigning has been going really, really well for us. We've been making phone calls, been text banking nonstop, and we really are able to reach out to voters because since most people are self-isolated, people are replying to their phone calls, their text messages, and they're seeing that for the first time, probably in a very long time in the district, that they have more than just one option. That we don't have to continuously to work the status quo in a district that has a 2% voter turnout in congressional primaries. We're looking to really make some noise, and I think that we're gonna. I'm feeling confident. I feel like most candidates would be feeling nervous around this time. I do have those sleepless nights, but I'm feeling good at the same time, and I think that we could. I'm hoping, and I really believe that we're going to be winning this thing.
Okay, well, and I know that I can say nationally, I know a lot of progressives have felt a little bit sort of adrift after what happened with the primary, and they're looking for politicians at other levels that they can support. It's possible that you might have already seen some of that effect on donations and things like that people turning to these other levels. And Sean, where can people find out more about your campaign, your platform, and what you're doing leading up to this primary?
Yeah, so 3 weeks left. We still do need volunteers. So if you want to volunteer, help us make phone calls, email us at info at Sean, SHAN2020.com. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SeanYat2020.
Okay, thank you so much, New York 5 candidate Shania Chowdhury. Thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck in the upcoming primary.
Thanks so much, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.